dimmed as our eyes met and you saw me. And forevermore, I'd like to share that vintage dream. And forevermore, we're living in that vintage dream.
I'm thirsty. He grinned as he stumbled through the bar. Well, he said, give me some more love, give me some love, give it all. His breath clearly said it all. His car was parked behind the back door. Tuxedo black, El Camino 1969. Well, he said, give me some more love, give me some love, give it all. His filthy fingers said it all. Yeah. Give it all. Well, he said, give me some more love, give me some love, give it all. His lazy eyes said it all. Come on, come on, come on, come on. Come on, come on, come on, come on. Well, he said, give me some more love, give me some love, give it all. Give me some more love, give me some love, give it all. He said, give me some more love, give me some love, give it all. Give me some more love, give me some love, give it all. Alright, give it to me. Yeah. Alright, come on, come on, come on, come on. Yeah, come on, come on, come on, come on. Well, he said, give me some love, give me some love, give it all. Give me some love, give me some love, give it all. Give me some love, give me some love, give it all. Give me some love, give me some love, give it all. Baby, give me some love. Well, na 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 na.
This is what I want now. No, I won't settle for anything else. I can't keep pretending. It's not getting to me. It's never ending. Can't give you what you need. Oh no, no. You're misbehaving. Yeah, it's getting to me. It's never ending. You can give anything, so you can go, go, go. Go, 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 go. Yeah, so I can focus. I just need to focus on myself.
trusting you when I could add up 2 and 2. When you promised we'd be together, you, me, forever. Now there's nothing left to lose. And though I understand it's hard sometimes to make up your mind in these trying times, yeah, I just can't accept you leaving me when I'm overseas with the heart so heavy. Think that I deserve the truth for once, not a guilty tone, 'cause you're not alone, yeah. You said you wanna come home, but I know you don't. So this time I won't hear it on the phone. If you got something to say to me, then say it to my face. What it's all about, why you're bailing out. Think you owe me an apology. Just say it to my face. You're sorry. You're so sorry. You're so sorry. You're so sorry. Say it to my face. You're sorry.
The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.patreon.com/The BPD Show.
Today is Monday, September 20th, 2021. Thank you so much for joining us. There's a sneaky suspicion in the back of your mind that I actually want to confirm this morning. Something is wrong with the timeline that we're in. Something is wrong with the leadership that we have when we see that there is a concerted effort by the leaders to maximize the kind of suffering that we're seeing, not only from this pandemic, but from the pandemic of white supremacy. Let's talk about that today. We begin this morning with On the Clock with Georgia Ford.
We turn this morning to Wisconsin, where Kyle Rittenhouse is currently undergoing pretrial hearings after being accused of homicide and attempted homicide for opening fire during protests for Jacob Blake. You may remember this. 2 people lost their lives last year in Kenosha, Wisconsin, when he decided to go to a protest where people were outraged about the treatment of Jacob Blake, who was a father. He did live, Jacob Blake did live, but he is now paralyzed. And so the back and forth that's happening right now during these pretrial hearings is prosecutors trying to admit as much evidence that they can to try and show that he is guilty. Of course, the defense is pushing back with a trial that's scheduled to start November 1st. I want you guys to take a listen. We're going to go inside the courtroom. This was a pretrial hearing from Friday. Take a listen at what the judge had to say.
The Kenosha County judge limiting the lines of attack for prosecutors and at the upcoming trial of Kyle Rittenhouse.
The man accused of killing 2 men and wounding a third during a protest over police brutality last summer is back in court.
It adds nothing to the case as it relates.
Don't concern me.
Judge Bruce Schrader not outright denying the photos of the teen posing with Proud Boys in January, if prosecutors can prove Rittenhouse had ties to the group at the time of the August 25th shooting that killed Anthony Huber and Joseph Rosenbaum. Schrader denying the defense's motion to admit Rosenbaum's prior felony conviction. Rittenhouse charged with a number of counts, including first-degree intentional homicide and first-degree reckless homicide. Prosecutors also wanting to admit video taken weeks prior to the shooting of Rittenhouse talking about wanting to shoot CVS customers with his rifle because he thought they were shoplifting.
In this instance, it's words on August 10th, and on August 25th, it is not debatable that there's violence.
The events are so totally dissimilar.
Schrader withholding a final decision on that video, but leaning towards denial.
This is not a political trial. It's not going to be a political trial.
Another motions hearing is scheduled for next month. A jury selection is scheduled for November 1st.
Now, Ben, the one thing that people are upset about is the fact that this judge continues to push back on critical key evidence that the prosecution wants to admit, especially the evidence that would tie Rittenhouse to the Proud Boys.
Yeah, I think, Georgia, and good morning, it is very evident, and I think it should be apparent at this point that we should not assume that those who judge over us are fair arbiters in the sense that they are not themselves influenced by biases. Because I honestly believe for you to dismiss or to actively pursue the evidence that they're trying to get rid of and that the judge is considering, some that is not going to be submitted, is clearly connected to who this person is as an individual, Kyle Rittenhouse. And the thing that jumped out to the most to me in that clip was when they said that this was not going to be a political trial. Everything in this country is inherently political. And for them to say that, it really shows an attempt to appear unbiased, but is drenched with biases because there's so much about this that is inherently political that has to be addressed.
Absolutely. And, you know, I think about the motive. Why would Kyle Rittenhouse go to a protest and open fire? Why would he do that? Ultimately, claiming the lives of 2 people and leaving another person injured, and then have the audacity to show up in court and plead not guilty to all counts, 2 counts of homicide, 1 count of attempted homicide. Why would he do that? And so I think the significance of the evidence the prosecution has obtained that shows his connection to the Proud Boys is motive. That's what that evidence, it doesn't just show who he is. It shows his motive. It shows the why. Why would someone do that? Why would someone show up to a protest and open fire? Well, if you're associated with the Proud Boys, which has a long history of hate crime and violence, well, now, I mean, we can connect the dots a little bit easier. And so I think it's not just a matter of, you know, this group or making it political. I think that is substantial evidence that will help the jury understand this man's motive.
That's right. And there has to be a concerted effort to prevent the jury from getting all of this evidence. And so then again, ties to the Proud Boys. inherently exposes the political nature of this, because the Proud Boys may as well be called the White Pride Boys, because what they stand for is not only white supremacy, but they also stand for a very specific political ideology, and that's the ideology of Trumpism. So this is inherently political. They showed up as a reaction. They showed up to Kenosha, Wisconsin last year as a reaction to protesters protesting on behalf of Black lives. They will look at, I guarantee you, if you ask this same judge this question, does he believe that Black Lives Matter is inherently political? And I think that you will find it would be exposed what this judge really believes.
Yeah, and at this point, I'm wondering why we're not calling the Proud Boys the new KKK, because they are upholding some of the same values, and they are using violence as a means to uphold those values. And so I do think at some point we have to depoliticize this hate group and call it what it is. My other concern here, Ben, I understand, Kyle was 17 when he killed two individuals who were protesting, and now he's an adult. Some people would say that these charges, it's almost as severe as it can get. But on the other hand, I would argue, why is he not facing any charges of committing a hate crime?
Yeah. In this, and I guess to whatever extent the law interprets political violence as a hate crime, because the victims here, I believe they were white Americans, and so they're going to disconnect automatically the lens of hate crimes. But here's the gag, right? This is directly rooted, and the question is a great one, because clearly this is rooted in hatred, a political hatred, ideological hatred, and hatred that is connected directly to white supremacy, because those two white people who were killed in this protest, they were out there protesting on behalf of Black lives.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And this isn't a new hatred. This is an inherent hatred that continues to be passed down generation after generation. Ben, I know you've been following the anniversary of just that. Can you bring us up to date with what you've been following?
Yeah. So, all around the country, last week, we recognized the anniversary of the bombing in Birmingham that took place in 1963. I believe this is the 58th anniversary, where 4 little Black girls who were attending Sunday school were killed. And it is the bombing of the 16th Street Baptist Church. And there is a story, we're all familiar with that story and the tragedy and the trauma and the white supremacy at the core of it. But I don't know how many of us are familiar with the 5th little girl, the survivor. Her name is Sarah Collins Rudolph, and she had a chance to speak with Joyanne Reed last week. And I think that it is just, it was a segment that I believe that we should take a look at. Let's watch that.
On that day, we was going to have a youth day program, and we were so excited. So we came into the ladies' lounge to freshen up, and I sang Denise McNair and Cynthia Wesley and Carol Robinson. Their class turned out. Denise McNair, she was in front, so she walked over to my sister Addie and asked Addie to tie the sash on her dress. And when she turned to reach her hand out to tie it, that's when I heard a loud noise. Boom! It was so loud, all I could do was holler, Jesus, Addie, Addie, Addie. And but she didn't answer. One of the deacons upstairs, when he heard the noise, he came down to check it and see what it was. The steps had been blown away, so he jumped down and he looked into the hole, and I was just standing there. It was just awful.
You were only 12 years old, and I have to imagine that trauma, affected you emotionally, losing your sister, but even just witnessing, being the only witness to that bombing. How did that impact your life?
For a long time, I was angry. I was angry at what had happened. The fact that my sister was killed and my friend was killed, and I lost, my right eye. I was really afraid, really, to go back into a church. One day I went to church, and this pastor, he seen me, and he called me out. He said, God is showing me you suffer with a nervous condition. And he told me that God was going to heal me now. So he laid his hand on me. And then fell to the floor. And when I got up, all of it was gone. I wasn't fearful anymore. On that day, we was going to have a youth day program. And we were so excited.
You can listen to Sarah Collins Rudolph, and she mentions her sister, Addie Mae Collins, and Carol Robertson, along with Cynthia Wesley. All three of them were 14 years old at the time that they were killed. In addition to Denise McNair, you heard her mention little sister McNair, who was 11 years old at the time. But you can also hear the trauma. And I just want to make sure that we pause and reflect that the trauma of white supremacy is present with us today because it was not that long ago. This sister is not that old. Like this, I think a lot of times, Georgia, we think of racism and white supremacy during the civil rights era, but the civil rights era was so recent that there are people who are still literally living with the trauma today that they experienced then, compounded with all of the trauma that's going around us now in the form of George Floyd and Tamir Rice and Trayvon Martin and Sandra Bland. So this is the anniversary that we want to take a moment to recognize, the 58th anniversary of the bombing of the 16th Street Baptist Church in Birmingham, Alabama.
You know, it is absolutely heartbreaking to reflect on this history, but this is the history that we stand on. You know, this is what has gotten us where we are today. And so also on the other coin of that trauma and that pain that our ancestors have had to endure, on the other side of that is so much strength and resilience. And so I am also reminded of the courage that it took for so many people to stand up and demand better, because their lives were at risk, you know, and even in looking at so many lynchings that have happened across this country, there's still so much justice that's unaccounted for. A lot of the lynchings that happened, a lot of the bombings, there was never anyone who was held accountable. And I think that is part of the reason why we see a generation now that puts so much stock into these trials, even reflecting on the Rittenhouse trial, because people want to see that we have evolved to a place as a country where justice can be served inside the courtroom and out.
That's right. That's right. And I think if we contextualize it for the timeline of history and we realize how few years we are removed from this, then I think we can have a proper understanding of where we are in our fight against those systemic forces. And what I mean by that very simply is we're not so far along in this battle that we should not expect to have some, to knuckle up a little bit in these fights. Right. Because this sister could be one of our aunties, Georgia.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And when we learned about the history of the civil rights era, in our mind, I think there was a part of us that felt as though these things had been resolved, as though the change our ancestors were fighting for came to pass, and not realizing how much resistance they were met with and that not everything was resolved. I was reminded recently, Ben, of just how I'm going to go really microscopic to give a larger example. I was reminded recently just how long change takes. For example, I mean, for those of you who have ever had braces or done Invisalign, that is a grueling process that you go through for weeks and weeks, if not months and months, and for some people, years, right? And every day, that's something, it's a part of your life every single day. And for the most part, it can be painful at times, right? And so on a personal level, that's a very microscopic example. You wake up one day and you say you want straighter teeth, you want better teeth. And so you undergo this extensive, lengthy process in order to get the change that you're seeking. But it didn't happen overnight. It's not going to happen in one day. It's not going to happen in 1 week. And so when you think about the systemic change that we've been pursuing for, I would say, a few centuries, we're not talking about someone's teeth. We're talking about societal issue, a systematic issue. And so if you can draw any parallel there in terms of how long it really takes for change to come and how painful that process can be. I think sometimes we forget, especially our generation, there was this expectation after George Floyd that we are going to wake up the next day and things were going to be different, or surely within a week, or if not in a week, then in a month, well, if not in a month, then in a year. And here we are more than a year later. And most of us haven't seen the change that we thought we would in the time frame. But it doesn't mean that we should give up or lose hope.
That's right.
I think it means that we should keep pressing.
Georgia, everything that you said is 100% what I'm going through on a personal level, trying to get this lower back of mine to cooperate with the fact that I'm going to exercise. And it just takes so much time to go through the physical pain and the physical therapy and what you're saying, the metamorphosis, right? That transformation into a more perfect union. It is a painful process. And where we are, I think, in the era of time, specifically in terms of American history, I think we can clearly see that we're at an inflection point in American history where this country is trying to decide whether or not it is going to continue to serve the interest of white supremacy, or will it serve the interest of marginalized people, the people in general, we the people. And then I have to add on to top of that, like you really opened up an entire lens through which we can understand this. The amount of time that it takes for us to realize how detrimental this greedy system is, how far the system will go for its greed. We're really at an inflection point where the people can clearly see something has to change. The question is how will America respond?
Yeah. Well, I would encourage people to keep pressing forward, because we know that there has been so much resistance, and even so much so that we see fundamental systems that have been put in place, fundamental protections that have been put in place, whether it's voting rights or Roe versus Wade, that our nation is beginning to backpedal on some of those protections that have been fought for. I want to turn now to a soundbite from Senator Josh Hawley. He has been advocating on this issue. He's been very outspoken. I know one of the largest arguments surrounding people who were against the bill that just passed in Texas, many people saying, what if a woman is raped? Shouldn't she be allowed to make a decision on whether or not she wants to keep that baby? Take a listen at what Senator Josh had to say on this issue.
Here's what I believe. This is a conviction in my heart. God has dreams for America that aren't fulfilled yet. Do you believe that? There's more to come. The best is yet to come, because we serve a king who is on the throne and his kingdom is ever advancing. Here's what I want to say to you today. It can feel like we're under siege. It can feel like we should be hiding, like we should be quiet, like we should be curled up and in a ball. And what I think the Lord is saying to us is, rise up, mighty men and women of valor. Rise up for this time. Rise up. The Lord is on the move.
We're going to see the death decree of Roe v. Wade overturned in our lifetime. I felt it, man. I was 16 years old, worshiping at the Call in 2000, and I was beating the ground asking God, overturn the death decree of Roe v. Wade. And we're living in a day where it's actually possible.
So let's just pray for that now. Heavenly Father, we thank you that you are the Lord over every institution, including the Supreme Court of the United States. And we thank you that you gave us in this country a great constitution that protects the right to life. And we pray, Lord, that you would open the eyes of our Supreme Court justices to see the truth and to love justice. And they would say justice would be done, that the unborn would be protected, that the innocent unborn would be protected in this country, that we would be a country that values the innocent unborn and innocent life, and it would begin this fall. Lord, we pray you begin in a mighty way, that you would begin to turn the tide at the U.S. Supreme Court this fall with this case. Lord, would you now come in your power, and would you turn the tide in our country? Would you turn the tide for life? And would it begin, Lord, right now? Would it begin right here? Would it begin right up at that building? In the name of the Lord Jesus, amen.
Ben, your thoughts?
You know, everything that comes in the name of the Lord Jesus isn't really coming in the name of the Lord Jesus. And I could reassure you that no matter how much jargon this senator has that sounds as though it is something that is reflective of the goodness of the faith that I adhere to, this man is a false prophet operating in the spirit of the Antichrist. Along with all of his colleagues, he's not by himself. Because let's be sure, they don't give one damn about life. Not the life of those children. They want to force somebody to have a child. And then as soon as that child is born, they will send that child into this pandemic to die of COVID-19 without question, because he is a part of the caucus that is ensuring that our children are getting infected at a rate that suggests that they are anything but pro-life. So I just want to make sure that the people are very, very clear. No matter how soft the music was in the background, no matter how many scriptures this guy is spitting, this is the lineage of the same Christianity that enslaved us and lynched us right before they went to Sunday school. So I just want to make sure the people are clear about that.
You know, and I think that for some people in the faith community, this is a hard conversation to have. You know, it is complex when you lay in the spiritual component. But what I do think is, if you wanted to protect life, then why aren't there harsher sentences for people who are accused, convicted of rape? Right? Like, if you start to address some of the concerns that women are facing, you go and you take a poll of women who have decided to get an abortion and find out why. Right? I mean, Ben, this is, as a woman, as a mother, I mean, this is a very personal issue for me also. I was in a situation with my last two daughters where I wasn't eligible for maternity leave. And so when you create working conditions that are not very conducive for parents. Now, mind you, the reality of it is a man would never be put in that position of not being eligible for maternity leave. Yes, while you could say paternity leave, and I know people advocate for parental leave, at the end of the day, in order to have a baby, it does not require a man take time off of work. A man can be at work while the baby's being born. I mean, scientifically, it's just possible. Women, there's certain needs. If we're going to become a pro-life society, then we need to look at these other countries who have created employment opportunities that allow women to have a year off, 6 months off, at minimum 6 weeks to just recover from a physical and health standpoint. And so you look at these statistics of women who are dying given birth. There are some Black women who are terrified to go into a hospital in 2021 and give birth, because 1/3 of the amount of people who are dying in birth or from complications are Black women. It's almost like a death sentence, right? And so when this is your reality, when these are your options, I know women who feel like this is the better way for them to go. It's the safer way for them to go. And so, you know, it's hard even as a journalist, because you have to look at both sides of this issue. And so when you have people who are so far on the pro-life side, you know, I can't help but wonder, what are they doing to address the concerns and the conditions in which lead women to an abortion clinic in the first place?
Right. I was going to say that they're doing nothing, but that's not actually accurate. They're exacerbating the situation. Right. They're doing everything they can. Right. They're trying to pay the smallest amount of wages. These are the people who are fighting against a livable wage. They're OK with you working longer. They're OK with you working for an hour and only being able to barely afford a value meal. Right. $7.25 an hour. The average value meal is like $8. That's the kind of system that people like Josh Hawley and the Republican Party and some collaborators in the Democratic Party are perfectly okay with. And if you really talk about the issues, you mentioned the data, the Guttmacher Institute really breaks this down and shows you that the vast majority of women who are making these decisions are married women who are making this based on a financial decision. But this is a country that has monetized and commodified all of our survival. So here's what they've given us. They want to force births in a situation where these babies that are born are nothing more than cogs in their machine to make them money. And that's exactly what they want. So this has nothing to do with life. They stop caring about you as soon as you're born.
Yeah, and when you look at those entry-level positions, you go to work for 40 weeks and you come home, you can't even afford childcare. So where does your child go while you're working? I mean, at the end of the day, Ben, you put it simply, you know, there's a machine here that has commoditized every single thing that we need to survive. If you can't even afford childcare, how can you go to work in the first place if you have a child? You can't. If you can't afford childcare, now let alone housing, and so yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then they say, "Oh, well, you're not a good parent," or "Why aren't you working hard?" I just want to enter into the record of this episode that the hardest working people I've ever seen in my life got up at about 5 o'clock, and they're going to make sure that they can serve you some breakfast on your way to your middle class or upper middle class job. The hardest working people in this country, but they insult them. And now not only are they not making it livable, they're saying if you perchance happen to have sex, because, you know, that's really what this is also about. This is about the controlling of these men. These white Christian men want to control the sexuality of everybody in this country. And if you so happen to have sex and got pregnant, well, then you are going to be forced to have that child, even though these evangelicals can put their mistresses in their expensive private jets and fly them to a state where they can get an abortion.
As we reflect again on that anniversary, Ben, and now here we are, nearly 60 years later, fighting to preserve the protections that our ancestors fought for. It is a tough time in America, and I feel like we've made so much progress, but there is a small group of people in this country who are trying to backpedal.
That's right. Whether it's voting rights, whether it is a woman's right, whether it is whether it's a livable wage, right? We are down to the fundamental elements of survival in this country, and we have a faction that is in control of our system that is saying, don't actually think we were going to deal in good faith, because if your vote undermines our power, then maybe we shouldn't let you vote.
Well, I know that is our time for this morning, Ben. People should stick around. What's coming up next?
What's coming up next is we're going to dig into these Republican governors. There are Republican governors, particularly across the South, that are doing everything they can to get people killed, but also they are doing everything they can to pour salt into the open wound, the traumatic wound of rape victims. Greg Abbott from Texas said some of the most obscene things that I've ever heard with regard. The illogic, the fallacy behind his entire argument about justifying this abortion ban, regardless of rape. I think it is something that people really need to take in consideration. So we're going to dig into those three governors in the next segment.
That's coming up next on The Benjamin Dixon Show.
The sound exclusive is in the building. Good morning, everybody. Hey, happy Monday to all. Today, September 20th. Like I did was so really busy, and I'm super tired. But hey, the world keeps going, but don't stop, y'all. Good morning, everybody. Grab your tea, your coffee, whatever it is you need. Get the morning started. Good morning, everybody.
Summertime, don't lie if you're thirsty. It's okay. Line up around the corner. Wait, for my lemonade. Wait, for my lemonade. It's my lemonade. The boys say, it's my lemonade. The boys say, it's my lemonade. The boys say, it's my lemonade. Posted with my girls, all the boys wave when they pass by. All around the world, it's the same thing every time. Yeah.
Good morning again, everybody. Welcome. Good morning, y'all. Courtney the SLP. On and on it goes. Kev Z, what's going on, brother? Rain Dusul, good morning. Mark S, good morning. So I'm not sure what you're hearing. Dwayne, you hear anything weird in the background? Let me know. Lily, good morning. The weekend, like I said, was busy. Had a launch party and everything, but it was awesome. Evergreen, good morning. Esther Broshin, good morning. Alicia, good morning. Brother Chuck Diesel, you better ride the wave. Chuck, good morning, y'all. Alicia Tiger, good morning. Roller Dragon, good morning. Afraid Not, Lisa Noel, good morning. Boondocks, what's going on? Peter Low Frequency, good morning. Laura, morning. Bloody Right, good morning. Julie, good morning, Julie. Good morning, Martha Benton. Good morning, y'all.
I remember vividly, etched in my mind like filigree. Visions of a gritty street, living so my kid can eat. I'm chilly at the hideout, that's my divinity. The phone rings, a voice says it's ready for delivery. The package, the message clear my head like antihistamines. Time to do my job, consider me the man of mystery, the secret agent. And you're the boss is known to be impatient. She need the package, she says it's so close she can taste it. I saw the look in her eyes.
Good morning, Georgia Fort. Good morning. Shout out to Georgia Fort, y'all. The clock with Georgia Fort this morning. Y'all make sure y'all stay tuned. We got more coming up next on the Benjamin Dixon Show, y'all. Stay tuned.
Gas pedal, blast off across the asphalt like NASA shuttles. Cars in front of me, I pass a couple, then check the rear view to see who's creeping behind me. Eyes in all directions, I'm never stepping blindly.
Dragon Bang, good morning. Starshine Song Dragon, I'm doing pretty good. How about yourself? Good morning to you. Synthos, good morning.
Yo, I'm never rushing. On time every time, no discussion. Moon shines down like it knows something. I hope it doesn't. I'm at the pickup spot that got the best product. Package in the back of the restaurant. The chef's got it. I step inside, he approached me slowly. No words needed, only a nod because the homie knows me. My cash is counted perfect, ready for the handoff. It go down slick as a magic trick. Call me Gandalf. Now I'm back on the street, bag full of heat in the passenger seat, and I'm gnashing my teeth. I feel the hunger too, but I stay loyal. Gotta get the package back to the boss before.
Luke Kane, good morning, brother Luke Kane. Shelby Hall, good morning to you.
The only thing that satisfies her appetite.
Laura Estrada, good morning.
My love for her is crazy. I make it back safely and watch her face light up because it's that tasty.
I could really use a change of scenery. Yeah, everybody smoking all the greenery. Yeah,
the Pioneer, good morning, y'all. Good morning, everybody. Make sure y'all stay tuned. We got more coming up next. You do not want to miss this. Great shows coming up today, man. Make sure you stay tuned. Good morning, everybody.
I'm still fly, let's go. It could all be worse. I could be a hater like you. It could all be worse. Pills to make the man, but that poison's gonna chew you from the inside out. So right now, say it with your chest now. Say it with your chest now.
Boy, I'm looking real skinny on this camera. What the hell?
Can't nobody take me here and now.
Let me find out. Looking in the mirror, what Nikki say? Looking in the mirror like, damn, I don't brag enough.
It's my time to ride. I'm young.
Mark S, of course, multiple times already, sir. That's one of my favorite shows. Blue King, I appreciate that, brother. Demon Yama Mama, good morning.
It's my time. It's my time to ride it out. It's your time. Oh. Cheers to all the haters, cause you proved to me that rising to the top was my destiny. And you can see whatever from behind me, but I'm still fly. I'm still fly, I know. I'm still fly. I'm still fly.
Happy anniversary to my brother and my sister out there, y'all. Happy anniversary, Andrew Jr. and Corinda. Happy anniversary, y'all. Love y'all. Mean it.
Clothes to make the man, but that boy is gonna do you from the inside out. It's time to say it with your chest now. Say it with your chest now. I'm free. Can't nobody take me here and now.
And real quick, y'all, we're going to start. So real quick, Jam Toom says the trauma of white supremacy is still here. We haven't left that era entirely yet. We are just not pushing whiteness aside and the harms it caused through its imperial need to be the top dog. Amen, Jam Toom. Thank you for your super chat. And shout out to everybody on Twitch this morning as well, too. And lastly, Laura Estrada. Laura Estrada said, this hurts my soul, especially hearing of such a false print, man. Shout out to Laura Estrada. Thank you so much, all, for your super chats. Good morning, Mom and Daddy. Let's get it started, y'all. Y'all, welcome back to the screen. It's about to go down. My brother from another mother, Benjamin Dixon, y'all. Good morning, Brother Ben.
Everybody's going somewhere.
The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.patreon.com/The BPD Show.
Welcome back, everyone. Benjamin Dixon here with my brother from another mother, DJ Exclusive. How you doing, man?
I'm pretty good this morning, sir. How about yourself?
Man, I'm good, man. I'm good. Just sitting in the background, vibing to the music that you are providing through your ministry of music, DJ Exclusive. We appreciate you, man. There's a clip that we were supposed to get to in On the Clock, and we ran out of time because the conversation just got so rich. It is quite honestly a conversation that should not be had just by two guys. However, I think it actually is a conversation that should be had by men because we're the culprits in probably 90%, 95, 99% of all instances of rape. Men are raping women. The insult to the injury of that reality is the Republican governor, Greg Abbott. Mm-hmm. His response to the abortion ban criticism, which is a valid criticism no matter what term, is that, rapes, we're going to solve all rapes. Basically what he said. And then, James, we have a clip of him saying that the reason you should trust him with this particular, traumatic experience that women go through because of men, you should trust him because he processed the most amount of rape kits than any other governor. Which tells me, Governor Abbott, that's exactly why you are unqualified to tell us that you're going to fix all rapes. Especially as it pertains, James, to the fact that women who are raped they're not going to be able to get an abortion after 6 weeks in the state of Texas because of Governor Greg Abbott. Let's take a listen in to this monster.
As governor, I have processed more rape kits than any governor in the history of the state of Texas. Processing those rape kits helps to identify rapists that can lead to the prosecution. When police are defunded, that obviously means you have fewer police to respond to or protect people from people like rapists. I will not accept defunding police in Texas, which is why these legislators passed and I signed into law about prohibitions and penalties for any jurisdiction that's even thinking about defunding the police.
Funny, James. Funny how that ran seamlessly in the same press conference, robbing women of their right over the autonomy over their bodies, even in the most dire of circumstances after being raped. And then he segued right into talking about funding the police with even more money, which we know as black people is a direct threat to our community. Funny how those two things are juxtaposed with each other.
Of course, you wouldn't expect any otherwise from him. And this is from somebody who's just a total complete idiot all the way around. I mean, you process more rape kits than any governor in the state of Texas. I don't think that's necessarily a good thing, sir. That just means your police and your forces not doing their job.
Preach, man, because it's so obvious. Right?
That's terrible, Ben. That's really terrible.
If last week you told me that you were going to, in order to accommodate for the inconvenience that Greg Abbott has created for women in the state of Texas, saying that even in the instances of rape, that you can't get an abortion after 6 weeks, to accommodate for that inconvenience, he said, well, what I'm going to do is solve the rape problems. That's what he said last week. This week, he's saying, I've processed more rape kits than anybody else, which tells us, James, that he's the least qualified person to solve the rape problem.
Hello, Ben. Absolutely right. That just goes to show that there's a bigger problem than you're admitting to.
Exactly. But he doesn't care about it. He doesn't care because these Republican governors don't care. I want to shift to this next Republican governor from the state of Mississippi, Tate Reeves. As he is encountering Jake Tapper, they're discussing COVID-19. And I want to, Jake Tapper did a great job of showing the hypocrisy of a governor who is opposing Joe Biden's mandates. But your state is the one that is being ravaged the most by COVID-19. Let's take a listen to this clip.
The reality is this is an attack by the president on hardworking Americans and hardworking Mississippians who he wants to choose between getting a jab in their arm and their ability to feed their families. And I just believe that's a false choice. The president does not have the authority to do this. He knows he doesn't have the authority to do this, in my opinion, but he wants to change the political narrative away from Afghanistan and away from the other issues that are driving his poll numbers into the ground and focus on anything, particularly a political fight, other than those issues.
Let's talk about what you and the legislature in Mississippi is doing, because I'm sure I don't need to tell you, Mississippi this week became the state with the worst number of coronavirus deaths per capita. In fact, if Mississippi were its own country, you would be second in the world only to Peru in terms of deaths per capita. That's a horrible, horrible, heartbreaking statistic. So with all due respect, Governor, your way is failing. Are you going to try to change anything from what you're doing already?
Yeah, well, obviously, in Mississippi, our legislature is a part-time legislature. Sometimes I wonder if in America, if our Congress was part-time, we wouldn't be in a better position. But let's talk a little bit about
better position than
Mississippi
what?
and where
Your
we
state
are with
is
the virus.
second worst in the world. I mean, how can you say that?
In the world, Ben. In the world.
In the world, James.
In the world. Y'all realize what they said, y'all. The second, not in the United States of America, but on the planet Earth. You are second.
Floating on this rock in space, the state of Mississippi per capita, if it was a country, would be the second worst impacted by COVID-19. And this mediocre white man by the name of Tate Reeves puts his incompetent, feckless. I have an issue with Mississippi because I have loved ones in Mississippi and I've lost loved ones in Mississippi to COVID-19.
Right, man.
Lifelong friends from Mississippi who have died because of this pandemic. And Tate Reeves puts his wildly incompetent self on national television and thinks that he can prevaricate his way around the reality that he is by far the most incompetent governor in the history of governors on the face of this planet. And there he is smiling. While our people are dying in Mississippi, man, it's black folks that's dying.
Yes.
You know, I know there's some white folks dying, but on the margin, like in terms of our percentage, in terms of representation, black folks are the ones that are being ravaged by this the worst, man. And this this incompetent, mediocre white man who probably has the comprehension skills of a sloth, but because we reward the village idiots in this country, he moseys his ass into the highest seat in the state of Mississippi, and as a result of his policies, I got people who are dead. The absurdity of it all. Let's continue before I get a little too invested this morning. Go ahead, James.
And I was about to say, Ben, the reason why you incompetent, that's Peter Griffin in the damn office. There was somebody that said, I can't take credit for that. Peter Griffin, straight up right there. Like I said, how did Peter Griffin get in office?
Man. I just, you know, a long time, lifelong friend. Let's move on to the next governor.
Yeah.
There's another governor in the state that we live, James. The state of Georgia. The former Secretary of State who robbed his way into the governor's seat, he robbed it from Stacey Abrams, in his justification as to why we should not pursue vaccine mandates, he creates something that would be fabulous if we had, but we do not have it, and it's the AIDS vaccine. But in order to make his argument sound, he had to literally create something that would have been cool if we actually had it back then. Let's take a listen to Governor Brian Kemp as he shows his incompetence.
So we've had vaccines for measles, for polio, for smallpox, for swine flu. How is this different?
Well, I think it's different in a lot of ways because it's so new. Even though it's very safe, it's very effective. We know that. I believe that. There are people that have doubt that's out there because they haven't been all three fully authorized yet, and then mixed messages out of the Biden administration. And plus, just like the AIDS vaccine, mandating it didn't work. It only worked when they started educating people why it was a good idea. That's what we need to continue to do with the COVID vaccine.
We've got Biden.
AIDS vaccine? Is there something I missed in 43 years, 42? I forgot how old I am, but that many years? Am I missing something?
Because we were born, right? I was born in 80, bro. Like, my entire existence has been shaped around the understanding and the fear of HIV/AIDS, right? It would have been really cool to know along these times while we were sitting our butts in them testing rooms if there was a vaccine out there, Brian Kemp.
And as a proud member of the card-toting LGBTQIA alphabet gang, whatever y'all want to call it that y'all say we are, I thought I would have knew that information, like for real. AIDS vaccine, bro?
Man, this is what happens when you take the village idiot and you throw him in a suit and tie, giving them a little bit of cash, because nothing makes a person feel that they're smarter than they really are than putting some money behind them. And you throw them into these governor seats, and in the time of our greatest need, right? Like, it is really fun to run laps around their stupidity. But I believe their stupidity is intentional. I believe that they're not actually village idiots. I think that they are carrying out an agenda that somewhere along the line, when the story is told of this moment, there are people who are profiting not only off of this pandemic, but off of the very plague of white supremacy itself. And we're going to find the paper trail, man, because I don't think that they're this dumb. I think that they're being paid enough to pretend like they're this dumb.
Absolutely, man. In between him, DeSantis, Abbott, and Peter Griffin that just got off the screen, man, these people will single-handedly destroy the United States of America. I'm sure there are a few more governors in that mix, but they're going to. This is going to be the downfall of us, y'all.
Bro, literally. Can we not see the writing on the wall, James? Because I really want to talk about that. I'm like, listen, folks. Rome ain't got nothing on America. I'm sorry. The fall of Rome has nothing like Nero fiddling as the Rome burned, or as the barbarians charged through the gates. That's got nothing on the fact that we got a country of people who are so drunk with greed, and they're so drunk with their bigotry, but they are not just outside in the economy. They're in the Senate. They're in the Congress. They are all around us. They're on the Supreme Court. And they're making these decisions that are affecting the lives of people not only in the United States, but also across the globe. So we got to really understand what's going on. And they are buffeted by a group of people who actually, I'm going to throw audible. I want to go to the commitment BPD 5, the commitment that these people have to this white supremacy / Trumpism, because I think Trump is the very best way for us to kind of understand the totality of, he wanted it to be a dictator. He was a mediocre white man who happened to think he was smarter than he was because his daddy gave him $1 million investment. That's how he got started. The white supremacy, the bigotry, and the greed. Donald Trump was like this perfect confluence of all of those things that are going to destroy America, like you said, James. And I want to go to a clip from Newsmax. This is a host by the name of Greg Stinchfield, and he's talking with the veteran as they discuss Afghanistan. They discuss different critiques of what's happening. But I want everyone to take a listen in to the commitment that these people have, not only to the ideology of white supremacy and bigotry and greed, but also to Donald Trump himself. Let's take a listen in.
I can tell you this didn't happen under President Trump. And I know there's a lot of people on the left that want to try to blame President Trump. He wanted out of Afghanistan real bad. He was real frustrated not being able to get out. But he didn't pull out because he knew this would happen. In fact, we all did. I called it on this program. My 12-year-old son knew about it. And so I've got Americans there that are stuck. To me, that's a hostage situation. But, Joe, I appreciate you working to get them out. I really do. Yeah. And I wish you all luck in the world.
With due respect,
thank you for...
With due respect, Grant, I mean, like, veterans, being one, right, and our friends are over there. Right. We followed this closely from multiple administrations, and we know the Trump's administration's efforts here were fairly weak, that they were trying to limit the number of people that would get out. And so there was coordination problems.
Joe, I'm going to cut you. I'm already weak. I'm already low on time, Joe. Joe, cut him off, please. Cut him off now. Cut him off now. You're not going to blame this on President Trump on my show. That's not happening. Now, I appreciate the work that you're doing. God bless you for being a veteran. God bless you for trying to get Americans out. But don't come on this program and take the talking points of the left and blame President Trump. That's not helping anybody. The Biden administration screwed this up from the very start. You know it. I know it. The country knows it. And to call them not hostages, I don't know how you don't call them hostages. They're stuck in Afghanistan with a country overrun with terrorists that are willing to kill them all. I'm mad about that, man. I really am. All right. I'm going to slow it down because we've got a real hero coming up. That man's a real hero, too. He served.
I'm just going to let you know, cut him off. Cut him off now. What?
James, he was mad. He was big mad, man. He was like,
big mad.
You're not. What you're not going to do, what you're not going to do is come on my show and talk about my leader, Trump. I'm like, wait
Trump
a minute.
Ain't never did nothing wrong to nobody. Hey, you ain't going to come on my show and talk about Donald Trump.
Donald Trump is the reason I'm here. Donald Trump is the reason I have a show in the first place, is what Greg Stinchfield was saying. He said, what you're not going to do is come in here and talk about my benefactor. God. But here's the other thing underneath this is the level of commitment that is at every single level. And Donald Trump is just a symptom here, right? I want to make sure that people never forget that Donald Trump is just the boil that erupted from white supremacy and bigotry and greed, right? They have a commitment, not only these Republican governors, but they have a commitment also throughout the media. And there's so much money that goes into these organizations like Newsmax. Their operation is into the millions upon millions of dollars. And these operations are here specifically to ensure that we never make any progress for humanity, man. I could just summarize. Black people, yeah. Women, absolutely. But humanity in general, these are the people who are blocking us, bro.
Absolutely, man. And I mean, just seeing the amount of big mad energy he had when the veteran was just trying to say something simple, and then you get upset and cut this man off. See, just you have that power because you're just on the show and you're just on the camera show or whatever, this little punk behind show that you're on, and you can do that. But let this have been somebody else's show or been in the street somewhere. Man, you're going to listen to what this man has to say. People hate to hear the truth, and that's when they get upset about it.
Yeah, man, I was getting ready to, I was shaking my head because I was just getting ready to go into another segment. I did not realize that we are at the end of this hour, and we want to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll be joined by Rebecca Azor for Like It or Not. We have a lot of more stories because this commitment, this thing that we're fighting, man, is everywhere. It is everywhere. So when we come back, we got to dig into these QAnon conspiracy theorists. We got to talk about some. We're going to be joined by Olayemi Olurin, the phenomenal public defender who comes on our show and anywhere she shows up, and she wrecks shop on behalf of the people. All of that and more is coming up after this break. DJ Exclusive, our Minister of Music. It's in your hands.
Gotcha. All right, y'all. Make sure that the chat that I just saw was hilarious. Anyway, y'all make sure y'all stay tuned. We got more coming up next. Rebecca. Mike Leonardo's coming up next, y'all. Y'all stay tuned. Good morning.
Probably the juice, they stole out my crown. Sorry to tell you, I know my value. I'm gonna recoup, yeah. But don't waste my energy, my energy. I don't got much, don't be wasting
Shout out my man, Daddy. Good my man, Daddy. Love y'all. Mean it. Good morning, Q. Love you too.
Right, don't question my integrity, no. I thought we would be just fine, and I thought y'all was like my
Rock Church Wrong Pew, good morning. Sassy Jazzy, Spitfire Dragon, good morning. King Jaffe Jaffair, good morning. This is Recoup. Unfortunately, I'm not the name of this song, so I don't have Recoup for the song.
Yeah, I'ma go through just to go through. Give me what you want me for,
Miss
what you been saying about me.
Morning, and hope all is well.
Tell them I need my money right now.
Good morning to you, Miss
Sorry to tell you, I know my value.
Yeah, I think my mic is
I'm gonna recoup.
Okay, good. I'm about to say I think my mic might be on this last leg. We hope not though. Brother Lateef, good morning to you.
Because I couldn't see, but now it's clear you ain't never been true to me. My intuition ain't never lied. I had to leave.
Keegan, good morning.
Handle your business, do what you're thinking.
I appreciate
to get your revenge, but you won't break me. God as my witness. Past the point of no return, I'm on a mission.
Shoot the Dragon, good morning.
But no need for comparisons. What's from me won't be from me.
The Pioneer, you should watch the documentary on Netflix. I forgot the name of it, but T-Pain is one of the first ones on there, and they're talking about how auto-tune killed music. People don't know that auto-tune has been around for many years. So I wouldn't say that it's ruining music. I think it's pretty good, just depending on how you use it. It's my opinion.
Sorry to tell you, I know my value. I'm gonna recoup. Yeah. Don't waste my.
Excuse me. Patricia, good morning, Patricia.
Sometimes and then you don't.
Sure.
You thought I would stay, well then I won't. Don't wanna keep you around anymore.
That's y'all make sure that y'all stay tuned, man. Rebecca's gonna be joining us momentarily, so make sure that you stay tuned.
Don't wanna tie yourself down, afraid of getting bored.
Danielle Labiqua says, good morning, Bubba. Great to see you. Did you watch the video I sent you on Instagram of the bird? Danielle, let me see if I did get it. I get so many DMs. I be popping like that. Let me see if I did get it, and I'll let you know.
You brought this on us, and you don't know how deep it cuts. No, you don't know how much it hurts. You can't hold on. It's slipping through your hands, and I won't try to understand. It's all gone, it's all gone. Under your command, under your command. You want me right there, and then you don't. You want
Smaya, thank you. Good morning to you, Smaya. Goku! Kamehameha! What's going on, Goku? Good mother, Industrial Arts. Man, good morning. Let me tell y'all. My weekend got away from me. Industrial Arts came in town, and I did not even get a chance to hang. Everything escaped me this weekend. So I apologize to you, brother. But next time you're in town or next time I come that way, we definitely going to get up, okay? Colorado? Oh, yeah.
How much it hurts. You can't hold on.
Six Dragon Daddy, absolutely right. And Roller Dragon, yep, there was a vocorder. I think that was the initial name of it, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, y'all, let me tell y'all real quick. So I asked Siri, I said, Siri, why am I still single? Child, do y'all know that Siri activated the front camera? So I switched to Android yesterday, so. Oh, hating ass heifer. Can't stand her. When I saw that joke, I was like, that's funny as hell. Oh my gosh. Huh? Ben, what I did, Ben?
Wait a minute, man. What? Wait. I said it wrong. I meant me and Jay. Siri did what to you when you asked? Wait, that might be one of the best ones I heard yet, James. Give it to me again.
Man, I asked Siri, I said, Siri girl, why am I still single? This heifer turned on the front camera.
And you switched to Android.
I switched to Android. I threw her ass away. I'm like, you ain't gonna get on me like that.
Not today, Satan.
Not today, Siri.
Listen, James, drop me a little beat in the background. I want to introduce a clip from a guy by the name of Drew Comments while we're on a quick interlude. And it's why I took the vaccine and how it's made. Check out this brother, a couple clips. Let's take a look at it.
Yo, 150 million full vaccinations given out in the U.S., and I'm one on Moderna gang, my boy. Why'd I do it? Pretty simple. Deadly pandemic. I ain't trying to die. Vaccine, 94% effective after the second shot. Sign me up. After hearing from virologists and ICU physicians, most of whom look like me, my mind was made up. Not to mention nobody give me a good enough reason not to do it. You don't remember Tuskegee, my boy? Yeah, I do, and I also remember in that same instance, black men were refused treatment. But look how fast they made it. They didn't test it. That's cap. First off, they started phase 1 of human trials for Moderna back in mid-March 2020. Plus, 3 things contribute to vaccine development usually taking so long. Funding, manpower, where the starting point is. These are the same factors that go into dating, but that's a conversation for another time. Let's first look at funding. Medical research costs money. Most of the time, one of the biggest challenges is getting grants. But that wasn't the case this time around. With the exception of the state of Georgia, the whole world closed down and researchers had access to all the money in it, which leads into the next advantage they had. Incredible manpower. Usually these research groups are pretty small with a handful of folks. With COVID-19 taking top priority in the world, the entire global medical community researched it together at the same time and shared notes. That with 100,000 people pretty much immediately volunteering for trials, they had more manpower than the comment section of a Kevin Samuels video. Anyway, third part is your starting point. mRNA is new, but it ain't that new. It's been studied for the better part of 30 years, going back to the early 90s. We're talking about days of mama said knock you out. Some of y'all too young for that. Technically, I am too. But you don't even know what's in that vaccine. And it be causing Bell's palsy and autism and making women infertile and having miscarriages. Big cap, New cap, Michelin Ness. In my Moderna vaccine was messenger ribonucleic acid, lipid nanoparticles such as SM102, polyethylene glycol 2000 dimethylglycerol, cholesterol, and 1,2-distill SN-glycerol 3-phosphocholine, trimethamine hydrochloride, acetic acid, sodium acetate trihydrate, and sucrose. Bruh. Ain't none of that causing Bell's palsy, autism, or infertility in women. Look, this how they work. The mRNA goes into the cytoplasm of the cell and gives instructions on how to make the spike protein found in the actual COVID-19 virus. Your own body creates the spike protein, then creates antibodies that can beat it when and if the real thing shows up. So in athlete terms, the mRNA shows up with game film. Your body then creates a scout team it can strategize against and beat up on in preparation for game day, just in case there's a game day. So really, we ain't even talking about vaccination. We talking about practice. As with any vaccinations, there are minor risks. So talk to your doctor. They're going to tell you the same thing. Then go get your shot. Because it don't make sense to be more afraid of the vaccine than you are of the actual virus. That's bass backwards.
Bruh.
True comments.
When I tell you, this black man just came on here and spit all kind of scientific information, dude, and broke it all the way down. Like,
it was damn. With the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air music in the background.
Right.
James, give us one more break, man. When we come back, we're going to be joined by none other than Olay as we discuss what's going on Rikers Island. Rebecca Azord, like it or not, coming back. Drew comments, that was dope, man. I like that one.
Right. All right, y'all. Make sure that you stay tuned, y'all. We got more coming up next.
My soul on fire.
Brother Chuck needs you caught that too bass backwards. I like that.
And every evening, and maybe we can't get any higher. But if you like to take a ride, we can discover what we're hiding. Making you move it.
Brother Tyler, good morning, Tyler.
Playing it cool like you know you should. Blowing a smile that's one of a kind. And I can't get you off my mind. I'm running too hot, I need to cool me down. I'm flying so high, I don't see the ground. I'm running too hot, I need to cool me down. I'm flying so high, I don't see the ground. Baby, you set my soul.
I think, like, in my farmer life, I used to be a bass player, like the bass guitar player.
And every evening, and maybe we can't get any higher. But if you like to take a ride, we can discover what we're hiding. Taking your time in the short term.
Boondocks Dragon, good morning to you.
My body's getting wild, wild, wild. The way that you move is like a love machine. Come be my king and I'll be your queen. I'm running so hot, I need to cool me down. I'm flying so high, I don't see the ground.
Martha Benton, good morning. Don't worry, we'll still be here. Make sure that you watch later on, all right? On and on it goes. Six Dragon Daddy, good morning, y'all.
Baby, you set my soul on fire. Every morning and every evening. And maybe we can.
Real quick, y'all. My old aunts would come up to me like and tease me at weddings and everything, and they'd be like, "Well, Bubba, do you think you'll be next?" And you know, that real quickly once I started doing the same to them at the funerals.
Every morning and every evening. And maybe we can't get any higher.
Y'all didn't get it. Y'all didn't get
But
it.
if you like to take a ride, we can discover what we're hiding. Baby, you set my soul on fire.
That was a little morbid.
And maybe we can't get any higher. Yeah.
All right, y'all. I think it's about that time. If I'm not mistaken, Dwayne, am I right? Is it? Okay, cool. We got one more song for you, and we get right to it. Y'all stay tuned.
I'm the one. I'm the one.
I'm a one-to-one, I could never be you. Low me twos, no, I can't be fooled. Low me twos, no, I hate these dudes. I'm a one-to-one,
That's the sprinkle right there, y'all.
be you. Anything you could do, I could do better. I can do better than you. Anything you could do, I could do better. I can do better than you.
I'm just having a good old time this morning by myself.
You thought it was a drought, that's cap. I get the front and I get the back. Lil Uzi the face.
Ooh, Laura Estrada, that would be dope as crap, man.
Where I'm out. Bought a new beamer, I run it to the ground.
Barbara E. Brown, good morning. Ty Snoopy, good morning to you. Brother Bryce, good morning, y'all.
Talking too much.
much, say less.
Justice Draconis, good morning.
Say less. If you can say it best, say less. I'm taking all best, say less. Talking too much, say less. If it's less than a check, say less. If you can say it best, say less. I'm taking all best.
It's the coffee, that's what it is, y'all. It's coffee with almond milk. It has a lot of energy, healthy energy. Yeah.
Low me tools, no, I hate these dudes. I'm a winner one, I can never be you. Anything you could do, I could do better. I can do better than you. Anything you could do, I could do better. I can do better than you. Yeah. I can never borrow from no man. How you talking ownership and no land? I got my roll on, now rolling. I drive on my cars like they're stolen. You got on and put your homies out for ransom.
Come on, coffee mix with melanin. Yes, sir. All this blackness on the screen. What's going on?
Me and my DM tryna link up. I leave them on wreck and get a no jam. I'm a one-to-one, I can never be.
Hollywood, good morning. Sweet Bingo 45, good morning, y'all. Y'all make sure y'all stay tuned like it or not. It's starting up next. You do not.
Anything you could do, I could do better. I can do better.
On it, Dragon, yes. Miss Sugar and Metal, you know.
I can do better than you. I'm a one-to-one, I can never be you. Little me tools, no, I can't be fooled. Little me tools, no, I hate these dudes. I'm a one-to-one, I
Lipsha, good morning, Lipsha.
Anything you could do, I could do better. I can do better than you. Anything you could do, I could do better. I can do better than you.
Good morning, B.
It was just a misunderstanding. You waited in the rain for hours, and I couldn't say
True Dragon, good morning.
No, I checked your number twice, then I went home. But I wanna let you know that, yeah, everything about you makes me smile. I wanna be your best friend, your best friend. I wanna be around you all the time. You don't understand.
Dragon name, good morning. Excuse me.
I meant everything I said.
All right, y'all. Ursula Baptiste, good morning to you. Y'all, it is time for
Love is all around.
it's a
Baby, what's your hurry?
Like it or not starts right now.
Like It or Not with Benjamin Dixon starts now.
What is
Good
the
morning,
808?
good morning,
Good morning.
good morning, good morning.
Good morning.
Girl, y'all, what you doing, girl? You know how we do this.
Girl, it was
Good
giving.
morning and welcome.
It was giving 808 with good morning. Ben, go ahead.
It was giving a lot of energy this morning. The energy is on 10, on 12, but good morning and welcome to Like It or Not, where we're free to tell the truth.
And not care who doesn't like it. It is Monday.
Girl, not at all.
Olay, how are you doing, girlfriend? What's up?
Good. Glad to be up. I got so much work out of the way today since y'all had me up early.
Girl, you acting like you acting like you in LA. You're giving us a girl, you right up there in New York.
I'm not a morning person. Y'all got me off to an efficient day.
I was gonna say, I thought you were in New York. We brought you in because I thought you were in New York, and I feel like she was in. Hey, I feel you. Welcome. It's good to see you. How have you been?
I'm good. Just working. Y'all know what I do.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes, you shut down the internet a lot with your beautiful your outfit choices. I'll be like, yes, where's she at today? Today.
Well,
and you're
listen.
also a lawyer as well. Look, and you also do that too. So for the people who don't know. For the people who don't know who you are or they're new to our channel today, introduce yourself. Let them know who you are and what you do.
I'm a public defender at the Legal Aid Society. I'm basically what I call a professional loudmouth online. I do a lot of advocacy. I guess they would call me a movement lawyer. I also do a lot of legal commentating. And right now I'm on the Law and Crime Network about twice a week.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
That's
you see,
dope.
Listen, she's booked and busy, honey. She's booked and busy. She reads people.
I see you everywhere. I see you everywhere now. It's like
me too.
Me too. My mommy said she don't know why y'all keep letting me on stuff.
This is true, but because you have such a, and that's what I think I love about you the most. You have such a piece about you that it's like, I have something to say, and regardless of what you guys think about me physically or how I am, my accent, where I come from, you're still gonna get this. I'm still qualified to speak. Like you don't take nothing from anyone, and you still do this the way that you're supposed to, and that's exactly how you do it. So that's what I love about you the most.
Thank you.
And you're welcome. We got to guest Black women up on this show. That's what we do.
Always, yes.
But there's so much going on in New York with stories of what's happening in Rikers. I know that you've been following the strikes over there. They say that the inmates have been running the prison system while some officials have gone on strike. What do you know about that, and what could you tell us about what's going on over there?
So Rikers is in the middle of a crisis that if you let the elected officials tell it just kind of came out of nowhere, but that's not the case. What happened was last year, pretrial detention was down 40%, right? When bail reform laws were passed. In the middle of COVID, like at the height of COVID, Cuomo did this last minute COVID bill in the middle of the night where he snuck in rolling back bail reform. And the minute that happened, pretrial detention spiked as much as 70%, right? That's what happened. So right now, even though prior to the pandemic, maybe it was underneath 4,000 people being incarcerated in Rikers, it was over 6,000. And for a year, it's over 6,000 now. For a year, public defenders were begging them, let people out, release them. They can safely socially distance. We were telling them about all of the different things our clients were telling us, and they ignored it. Judges actively were like, nope. We're going to keep them in. They started using any discretion they could to keep people in on technical parole violations, whatever they could. So now what's happened is COVID cases have completely spiked, right? There's no way to safely socially distance. So it's an outbreak of COVID there. On top of that, what happened was, they're talking a lot about, incarcerated people at Rikers controlling the prisons or taking over. Let's talk about how that happened. The corrections officers stopped showing up to work. As many as over 2,000 different corrections officers had cases of COVID. They also have unlimited sick time. So they just stopped showing up. And that's what happened. That's why there's a surge. They're not there. They're not turning up for work. So the crisis is directly responsible for the actions they took.
Wow. So they literally have sick days and they're taking them, right? So even if I did read in the article that we discussed on our last show, exactly what you said. They are acting like this is something that's coming out of nowhere, yet this has been happening since last year. They're just trying to act like it's brand new. It's funny because they said that they didn't say what they were going to do, but they said that there would be some kind of reprimand for those officials who are not showing up to work. But I don't know if that's true, because then you would think they would show up to work, right? But they're just still not coming, and these inmates are having to run the system. Nobody thinks that's an issue. Like, I don't know why they wouldn't think that's an issue. They're having, and then there was one that I read where they were in there having to try and get their own court dates because no one is in there telling them about their court dates. So they're trying to get their own court dates together. Meanwhile, they can't really take phone calls, but they're trying to reach out to their lawyers and public defenders to assist them and help them, to no avail. We just read about this, or we just talked about, or I just read about this one case recently over the weekend where Rikers prisoner died after NYC jailers wouldn't take him to court and refused his $1 bail payment. They said his mother said they didn't listen, and he died literally.
So let me tell you what happened there, right? And that is a tragedy. That 24-year-old. So what happened was they arrested him on a pretty much like minuscule misdemeanor in New York City. Jersey had him for another silly misdemeanor that wouldn't go anywhere. But what happens when they have cases from out of state is it's a fugitive case, which means, so whatever attorney got him in New York City couldn't do anything about it, right? There's this hold, this state wants him, and what they do is they take people and they can take them for as much as 60 days and ongoing under the statute on this case. So what'll happen is the judge will set $1 bail in the New York City case. So should you be able to get him out on this New Jersey case that's keeping him on hold, you'll just pay $1 and he'll get out. But they couldn't do that. They couldn't get him out on this technical New Jersey thing. And then they also weren't going for any of his court dates because there's no court officer. So the public defender's hands were buckled. There was nothing that could be done because they have all these, restraints in place that kept this 24-year-old in jail. And that's what happened. And that's what they do. They have these holes and these technical violations and people can't get out. That's why.
Sis, you mean a 24-year-old died for $1 bail because of the technicalities and he fell through the cracks of the system and nobody could help him.
That's exactly it. And, I don't even want to say, fell through the cracks because, it's important to remember that all these people are consciously, deliberately doing this, right? All these people that are in Rikers, they're not there because someone forgot them. They're there because there are people bending over backwards to make sure that they stay there. I had a case last year at the height of the pandemic where I was trying to get my client out. He had a misdemeanor. He was there because he didn't get to do some community service on a program. And that's because they couldn't pay for the program. These programs that they make you do, your clients are poor. He couldn't pay for it. So they lock him up on this at the middle of this pandemic. They grab him, you would think for no reason, throw him in. He has asthma. He had an underlying condition. He calls me. He's like, he's sick. There are 50 something people in my cell. I can't socially distance. I write a bail writ. I go in front of the judge. The judge tells me, I believe you, even with all those assurances that he's going to do the program. I'm like, I talked to his mom. She's going to pay for the program. Just let him out. He'll do the program. The judge says, well, because of the pandemic, I don't think the program's up and running. So I'm going to keep him in. I'm like, you're going to risk his life in the middle of a pandemic. You're not going to let him out. And that's what they were doing. And that was a black judge. And it's important to remember that they're all very much so invested in this systemic. Very much so.
Mm-hmm. There it is.
Yep.
There it is.
Hey, real quick question. I know a lot of people are asking, what was the cause of death for the 24-year-old? I know I wanted to know that as well too.
I think what I heard, but I think it might have been a suicide. I think it might have been a suicide or a drug related is one of the two.
Yeah, it was a possible drug overdose. It was a possible drug overdose.
There's been, as of last night at 7:25 p.m., there have been 11 deaths in Rikers since December, half of which have been suicides. And a lot of these legislators are making it as though, suicide has nothing to do with them. They even, they publish like, natural causes. No, it's not. If you engage in activity, if you lock somebody up pre-trial, it's important to remember this. 85% of the people in Rikers haven't been convicted of any crime. These are regular workers. These are regular, everyday people. They have been locked up. They are stuck in Rikers and in notoriously terrible, notorious, let alone a crisis in the middle of a pandemic. And they can't get out. And they're subjected to, gang control, violence, all these different things that are happening in Rikers right now. And they should take their lives. That's not a natural cause. That's not something you need to offer condolences on.
Olay, can I ask you a question? Yes. How is it that this violation of basic rights, due process, right? How is this considered to be due process? Because I'm sure that's what they're going to say. This is part of due process. How, Sway? How does that?
It's not. It's not.
So how is it not the case that we have shut down Rikers completely?
Because they've made a business out of it and they don't want it to be there. Let's talk about it. We've been having a campaign, end Rikers, close Rikers now immediately. And how did legislators, Democratic legislators, might I add, respond to that? They're like, close Rikers and build 4 new jails, right? So they allegedly are building more jails as though that, solves the problem. And, people like Mayor de Blasio, who have nothing, no solution, nothing to say for it, he hasn't visited Rikers since 2017. Because that's how much they care. It's not a matter of, whether or not they don't know or they don't know what they could do. They know. They're being told. They get writs and complaints from people on the ground every single day. Like, wow, this might be a news story now and the regular public might be focused and just now hearing about it. They've been new. And they made a conscious decision. They've been denying writs for a year. So they know. It's just a choice because they've made a business out of this. And at the end of the day, they don't really care. They don't really care about these people. And that's what it really boils down to.
Yeah. And what's funny is when I was actually going over and researching it last time we were on the show, the article that I read was from a year ago in August. And it sounded like the same exact story that they're just refreshing for today. The same exact story. When those tours were done in Rikers from state officials, I thought that was so recent. Yet it was then. But they're now using that as, when state officials walked through, here's what they saw. They walked through a year ago and nothing has been done since. We're getting the same things happening. Like you said, major state officials aren't really doing anything about it. Cuomo secretly went in during COVID-19 and started to add fuel to the fire that was already happening at Rikers. And you're right, it does become a business. We hear Rikers in rappers' music. We hear about Rikers. When we hear about New York, we know Rikers is attached to it. So it is a business. They got to keep it up. They got to keep it together. But yet in it, it's literally a hellhole. People there, and it's a hellhole.
And at the end of the day, the answer is decarcerate. The Brooklyn DA, Eric Gonzalez, is asking for them to hire more staff and hire private, guards, because these people aren't showing up, right? The corrections officers have a union. And so they're making all kind of noise. Don't hire anybody, but they also don't want to come. They don't want to be there. So it's this issue with staffing. But what is the real problem is let these people out. Just tell me how we are allegedly presumed innocent, right? If that's what they say, people are presumed innocent until guilty. So how come you can lock them up, throw them away in a infamously terrible place in the middle of a pandemic and a spiked crisis where you're recognizing they're in an exceptional amount of danger, and you're still locking people out and you won't let them out? Like, who are you the elected officials for?
Oh, and there it is. There it is. Can we push one step further, Olay, Rebecca, with your permission? Because honestly, they have to be getting paid per body in there. Help me understand, like, I don't know this off the top of my head. What is the financial structure of Rikers Island? Like, those bodies that are in there that are getting taxpayer dollars for every body that can be in there. Who are the beneficiaries? Are there private shareholders that own a piece of Riker Island?
So let me see. NYPD, I knew this. NYPD itself has an $11.2 billion budget. Of that, there's, right? Yeah. Billions of dollars are designated aside for just Rikers for maintaining this. So I want to be clear where the money is being put. I couldn't even begin to tell you the full breakdown of who all gets paid, but I know everybody that's involved with the part of the criminal system that keeps people locked up in the jail is getting paid a lot more money than the people that are keeping them out. I'll tell you that. How much I know. Yeah.
Jesus.
Billions.
Wow.
Y'all remember that Philadelphia judge that the Philadelphia judge who was getting kickbacks to send children to private prisons. He got caught eventually, but how many lives, Olay, had he taken to and ruined for profit?
Yeah.
I mean, and this was a white judge doing it to white children. So obviously I know black children were caught up in there because if these people will sacrifice their children on the altar of greed, what do you think they're doing to our children?
Yeah, it's because people are very, very invested in this punitive criminal system. That's just the reality of it, right? When you construct criminality around people, what happens is people say, okay, they're a criminal, they did something bad, they're whatever, and they stop caring. It's just that simple. That's the only reason why Rikers and these systems are allowed to operate in plain sight, right? The whole country claims they're so opposed to mass incarceration. They have this whole problem with the prison industrial complex. Like last year, there was a protest just about everywhere in the United States against mass incarceration and police brutality. So how is it still happening? How does it happen? Everybody knows, and all our Democratic blue leaders are voting for it. They're doing it, and they're not getting any pushback, right? And it's because on some level, people are very invested in the idea that people we accuse of crime deserve whatever happens, and they don't look at it any further than that. They just don't care. They're not thinking of it as regular people, and that's why, even though it doesn't matter, innocent, guilty in terms of having your rights violated in prison, it's important to remind people, hey, the Rikers you're talking about as being so infamous in such a terrible place, these people that haven't been convicted, right? Because that puts a light bulb in people's head. They're a lot easier to dismiss people who've been convicted of a crime than they are, recognizing someone is the same as you. When you remind them, hey, the people that are in Rikers are just regular New Yorkers that got picked up for regular activity. They haven't been convicted. A lot of people are in there on all kinds. When I say nonsense, utter nonsense cases people are in there losing their lives for. It's important to tell them.
Yeah. And when you tell them, it gives people a scope and an understanding, like you said. I think there's so much misinformation being put out on purpose when it comes to Rikers. I ain't know nothing, but then I'm like, I know I heard this sometime last year. So it was crazy because while reading the article, I looked at the date and I had to keep looking at it like, we are not in 2020. We're not in 2020, Rebecca. We're not in 2020. That's a whole year that these people have been struggling. And I know that even the not officials, well, we can call them officials on Tuesdays and Thursdays, the inmates, they're literally writing letters. They're writing letters and stuff that are not being seen or even like they don't care. You're right. They really don't care. I think this is ridiculous how, we have all these state officials and they could be Democrat or they could be Republican, because I was about to cuss. They could be Republican. They could be either one. And this is where I say not all Democrats or not all people from the left are for the cause. And there are times where we really have to focus on that. Like right now, we need to really focus on the people that we put in these seats. They got lower level state officials going to walk Rikers and coming back with a statement. For America.
It's because people don't, all of us have to do it, right? You know what happens? It's not even that people are everybody. A lot of these people, yes. But it's not that everybody is consciously invested in doing these inhumane things. What happens is they're very invested in an underlying belief, right? They think, I'm leftist, I'm progressive, I'm a Democrat, I'm blue, I'm all these different things, right? I oppose all this like conscious injustice, things they view as someone materially went out and did something bad, but they don't think about how implicit beliefs they have invest in that system. If you believe that, police are always necessary and what they do is right and, people should be punished and, put them in jail and you believe in all these things at bottom, it doesn't matter how much you claim to be against the injustice you see as a result. If you believe in the things that create it and the things that foster it, that's what's going to happen. But people don't examine that bottom line belief. They think it's good enough to be like, I oppose that. That's wrong. I see bad things happen in Rikers. But if you ask them to shut down Rikers, they'll be like, oh, no, we need jail. We need jail. What are we going to do? How are we going to be safe? Because they're still invested in that. And that's the problem. People do not address that underlying belief. And it's hard to get them to do it because what happens is a lot of the time, Democrats and, people on the left and all of these different politicians don't want you to say anything about that. You know what I mean? You're gonna like rile up the feathers of these other people. And I know it just as somebody that constantly says it every day. And I know what the pushback is. I recognize, this is a message we're saying because someone tells me not to say it.
Yeah. And just speaking about all of this and your total knowledge of what's going on and being somebody there on the ground who not only is there in New York, but also works with, inmates who don't have anybody to defend them. You hear their stories. You talked about, having someone who was stripped of an opportunity to come out and, representing those type of people. I know you said you were working on something that would highlight a lot of that. What was that again? Because I really want to know and I really want to be, I feel like we need to be a part of that. And every single episode or whatever it is that you drop, we need that here on the show. But tell us about that.
I'm telling their stories. So, two different initiatives. On one level, I'm, every single day, I try and publish a different person that was killed by the police that we don't know about. That's the first one that didn't get the national attention. Because I think that is incredibly important, right? People look at these things as aberrations or like it's happening here or there, but it's happening every single day and it's been happening every single day. So that's the first thing. But on the second hand, I think it's important. People like to talk too much about what's wrong with the criminal system while not talking to the people that have been impacted by it. And that's nonsensical to me. That's the only way you're going to know what's best. So what I'm doing on one level is I'm compiling the stories as written by them, currently and formerly incarcerated people. I'm letting them tell their own stories the way they want to tell it. And I'm going to share that, and I'm sharing that out. So that's the first thing. And the second thing I'm doing now is I have a friend, Barry. He's formerly incarcerated. He actually came to talk to me in my class of attorneys when I started at Legal Aid. He told us his bad experience with public defenders and what happened to him, and that helped me be a better attorney. Like then immediately I made friends with him, and he's been keeping me a good attorney for years, right? I consciously think in my head. So the other day I was writing something. I was preparing. I don't remember what thing I was writing, but a part of it was, writing from the perspective of people who were incarcerated, like talking to them. And I was like, they're not doing this right. I don't know what's wrong with it, but I called him and, he told me, and that reminded me, I was like, all right, this helps me be so much of a better attorney, when I just listen to formerly incarcerated people and let them tell us how to approach it. And so I was like, well, maybe I need to be giving that to other public defenders and other people that are studying in law school. So what I'm doing now is Barry and I are putting together a panel where other formerly incarcerated people can have a panel and talk to law students and current public defenders and people that are interested in this work for free, because I do everything for the free, so that they can learn this. Yeah, because it's important. It's very, very important, and people don't recognize that enough. So that's what I'm doing.
And that's a big deal. Awesome. And we need the exclusives. Okay, so when you do have those, we need the exclusives. I got you. Because you're a superstar. You're a superstar on the show, but that literally is something I think that it may come off so simple, but it's not in today's world at all.
That's right.
The stories of the untold stories of inmates or people who have been murdered and they're nameless due to many systemic things, who don't make the hashtag, who don't make the search, anything. You see these people, you hear about them, and this is great that it's coming from you, but we get to actually see and hear the truth of it. And I always say, for us and by us, when we're getting it from the media, watered down, stripped down from articles and things like that, they're going to be left out parts. As we see with Rikers, we didn't get the truth, the full story. But there are people like you who understand and know. So I'm glad that this is going to be coming from you. And again, we need the exclusive, sis. Okay? We need the exclusive. I got y'all.
Olay, I don't know how much time you have, and we probably are going to come up here on a break shortly. But I'm fascinated with those stories. Yes. I am fascinated with those stories. So any way that we can be of assistance, because y'all know how I do. I mean, if we can put these stories in video format, we'll send a whole ass camera crew, because the truth of the matter is, why haven't we heard it from them? Why are we still?
Because people don't want to hear from them. They don't want people hearing from them. That's what I recognize.
Right.
Of all the things I do on a daily basis, I make a lot of noise. I do a lot of talking. And the things that I feel like should get the least pushback, like things like that, when I say, hey, we should listen to people, in the criminal system, we should actually listen to them. If you think I have something compelling to say, imagine if you heard from the person that's actually going through it. People fight me on it. That's the time I get the most pushback. And that's what made me say, okay, something's up here. That's where the real change would come from. Because when I write a lot of things. I'd be like, abolish the police, shut down the criminal system, you're all racist. I say a lot. They'd be like, yeah, that's fine. I'd be like, listen to people in the criminal system. They'd be like, hold on now, sweetie.
Don't go that far.
That's what I
don't actually let us listen to the people who have been impacted. I cannot imagine getting caught up on some petty charge and being sucked into the bowels. Like it's like Dante's Inferno descending into the seventh layer of hell into
That's
Rikers,
what it is.
And being unable to get out.
Prior to bail reform, I used to have to argue for release on every single case. And this is, in my first year as an attorney, nothing but trivial misdemeanors. You know how many people were sent to Rikers on traffic violations? Things they would give white people a ticket for? Do you know how many people? Think about crazy. That. Think about a jail being notorious, like infamous for being a heinous place, and you sending people there on traffic violations? And
as a black person, as a black person, I don't care what your economic status is. Like you stand a good chance of passing through Rikers Island if you're in the city.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
No, it's true.
I got nothing.
It's true. It's true. And it's true. And it's important that it's said. The average black man between 18 to 29 years old in America at some point in time in his life has been arrested or incarcerated. And that's a damning statistics that should shock all of our conscience. That's a real thing. That is a very real, and that should not be an experience that is familiar and common among us. It's not. It shouldn't be, and it doesn't need to be. And it's nothing about us that innately makes it so. And I think that's what's important. Too many people like to pretend like it's just happening because it's something we're doing. No, it's not. No, it's not. The system is designed in place to make it that way, and that is the issue.
Yeah. Yeah, dang, it's just so much, and I'm glad that you're highlighting this. I'm glad that we're highlighting it here on the show because I know this is so easy for it to be brushed under the rug, as we saw with last year's case. But I hope that we stick on this the same way that we're going to be sticking on immigration issues. We're going to take a quick break, but right after this, we're going to start talking some immigration issues, and I hope that you can stay, and so we can talk about this. And I know that you being my Caribbean sister with the Nigerian background that I just found out, and we'll talk about that after this break. Bubba, take us to break.
Y'all make sure make sure you stay tuned. Y'all, we got coming up next with Olayemi to y'all. Come on, everybody, stay tuned.
Sticks and stones may break my bone, but your words can't hurt me. No, you just can't hurt me. No, I ain't been right more than I've been wrong, and it still can't hurt me. No, it just can't hurt me. No. No, you just can't hurt me. No, you just can't hurt me. No, no, no. I know it's hard to be polite, and it's easy being petty. My mama used to tell me, gotta use you when he ready. Man, it's crazy how my brother said it could have been my cell. It's either prison or a grave. That's when everybody tell me, man, life ain't the beach, it's a female dog. I'm staying 10 toes down, though I still might fall. Oh yeah, now I done came through, knocking pictures off you walls. Cause loving people who persecute you, it's still a tough be a light up on my path and a lamp under my feet. I know my faith strong, but my flesh still kinda weak. When that victory be looking like the verge of defeat, and I feel like disrespect, help me turn my other cheek and say sticks and stones may break my bone, but your words can't hurt me. No, you just can't hurt me. No, I ain't been right more than I've been wrong, and it still can't hurt me. No, it just can't hurt me. No.
Y'all, who knows what it is? It can be so many things. Who knows?
No, you just can't hurt me. No.
This mic, that's why I'm not talking too much, because this mic is stupid.
No, you just can't hurt me. No, you just can't hurt me. No. See, it's hard to be polite. It's easy being petty. Mama used to tell me, gotta use you when you're ready. Cause I ain't working on my own timing. Ain't got no diamonds on me, but I stay shining. Yeah, yeah. They say the world would be a better place if we take out the hate. Stop all the hate right now. Yeah. Let's keep it real. It'd be better if we just subtract the fake. Yeah. So be a light up on my path and a lamp under my feet. I know my faith strong, but my flesh still kinda weak. When that victory be looking like the verge of defeat, and I feel like disrespect, help me turn my other cheek and say sticks and stones may break my bone, but your words can't hurt me. No, you just can't hurt me. No, I ain't been right more than I've been wrong. You can't hurt me. You just can't hurt me. No. No, you just can't hurt. No, you just can't hurt me. No, no, no.
I'm in sync with the earth. 10 toes deep, flower child from the turf. I never switch sides, like even when I die, I'ma ride for the squad, let up ties in the hearse. I've been on the vibe, kinda hard to describe. I'm in between, I'm good and it's
y'all make sure y'all stay tuned, man. We got more coming up next. Stay tuned.
To realize I'm in the middle of the time of my life. I never sold back for the stack, never lied on the rap. Got a bag from the way that I write it. Queen looking Tyson, through that I survived, doing 80 to the house. Then I hit him to the sky, changed haters on a tirade. Talking to the grip in the face, be still, let that hate stuff fade. We all want the same, we all want a meal in the safe. I wanna live like I'm trying to get lightning. Trail spill from my lips, feel big from the bib. Take a sip till I pass out. Try and get grit, but it don't make sense. Cause you can lose life on this fast route. Yeah, turn thoughts to a cash cow. I might flip that to the glass house. I don't need the accolades, I'm in love with the chase. I just wanna eat, save a spot at the table. Beats with the slap, pin myself on the map. You long with the wind, but we knowing that it's cap. 5-hour flights, couple nights at the flat. To be real, couldn't see me making moves while I'm at. I'm still on the grind, limit time when I chat. Burning down sage, keep the demons away. When I write it, give a piece of myself to the page. I don't do it for the praise, love, that's just how I'm made. from the glass in the mirror. Yeah. Do it at me, old man. Trying to pass in the fear. You're the first one to talk, but the last one.
All right, y'all. Welcome back again to the screen. My two sisters and my brother, y'all. Ben, Rebecca, and Olay. Hey, y'all. Before y'all get started, though, I had a word that was laid on me, and I got to share it. Okay. So I wish. I don't know. This microphone is stupid.
Yo, Mike, we dropping low in the caddy. I feel like the back is hanging on the floor.
It ain't me. You got to blame this system. I don't know. It's Zoom. You know how Zoom do, child. It's audio issues and sync issues. You can ruin the damn word, Rebecca. Shit. Forgive me, Lord. Forgive me. Now let me deliver my word. I wish Ben had his organ. And the Lord said unto John, come forth. And you shall receive eternal life. But John came fifth and won a toaster.
Not you.
Why, James?
I didn't get that one. I didn't do
Good
Sunday
morning,
school full on. I didn't.
Olay
get
didn't
that
know
one.
it was coming.
I enjoyed it.
Oh man, James, how you gonna play with the Lord like that though? That's my question, man. We try to be blessed on this show, and you playing with God like that, we might get struck by lightning early.
Well,
my favorite. I mean, it's the truth though. You know, John came fifth and he won a toast. He said, "Come forth, and you will receive eternal life." He came fifth and he won a toast. Fourth, Rebecca. Fourth. F-O-R-T-H. F-O-U-R-T-H. Fourth.
Oh,
math wasn't my thing either. And I was a Sunday school, how Dr. Max says, Sunday school dropout. And math wasn't my thing either. So when you say, you got to tell me that joke on the phone and break it down to me bit by bit. I'll be moving real slow.
But it is the effort, James. I must commend. Listen, it is the ministry of music as well as the ministry of dad jokes that we do appreciate. I can't stand you though, man. I just
of course.
Rebecca, please help us here.
Okay, I will. So I don't even know how to pivot from that. There's a lot going on in Texas. I told you guys that I'm going to stay on y'all next about when it comes to Haiti and about immigrants and all those good things. But there's a lot of, there's a whole joke happening in Texas. The leadership over there is a damn joke. So the U.S. is to start sending Haitians back yesterday that are pulling up under a bridge in Texas. So this is a report from the Haitian Times that Haiti or the U.S. will start sending Haitian migrants camped under a Texas border town bridge back to Haiti via daily flights, which started yesterday. The Department of Homeland Security Secretary Anthony Mayorkas, he said that earlier on Sunday. The U.S. is also working with Haitian government to help with the reception of, you guys, I need this word. I was trying to practice it yesterday. Repatriated.
Oh, repatriate.
Am I saying that correctly? Repatriated. Mm-hmm. Basically, the Haitians that then went on to migrate to other places, but Haitians who have most been living in Brazil, Chile, and other Latin countries, trekking across the continents to enter the U.S., right? So they've been doing that. But Chile has, let me pause right there. Chile, I can tell you, has been a stop for Haitians, for especially ones who can't come into the U.S. So they've been going there. There has been unfair treatment happening in Chile, but it's not the way that it's happening in the U.S. So I have aunties, cousins who have stopped in Chile, as a result of the 2010 earthquake, living their best life. Okay, living their best life. Couldn't come to the U.S., so they're living their best life in Chile. So this is what Secretary Mayorkas had to say. He said, "We have no choice at this point but to increase repatriation flights." This is what he said on Sunday, while they were literally about to go get them and bring them back. He said an influx of 12,000 migrants are camped. We said 12,000. This started out like maybe 2,000. But with the influx of 12,000 migrants camped out at the Del Rio Bridge, a number that had been accumulating for weeks, but ballooned in the past week with the arrival of 2,000 more migrants on Thursday alone, drawn by misinformation about the U.S. providing temporary protected status, TPS, to anyone who makes it to America. So now somebody's cousin them done told them, if you arrive here, you will have protected status here. Mayorkas said the immigrants are undertaking an irregular path to immigration that is perilous, and will ultimately prove fruitless. He said, this is what he said. Trying to come to the U.S. in this way is not worth the tragedy, because we know what that means, the money or the effort. They don't want to spend money on y'all. They're going to literally, it's going to end tragic for you guys. And they do not want to put any effort into the Black migrants. He said, do not attempt this journey because it will not succeed. Citing security reasons, Mayorkas did not provide details about the number of flights nor people it would target returning to Haiti every day. He also did not provide information, including any funding arrangements about the Haitian government's role in resettling the compatriots. Since some migrants may have obtained, I want you guys to listen to this part too. This part for me. Since some migrants may have obtained immigration status in other countries, officials with Border Patrol and immigration agencies with which Homeland Security oversees will also look at the documentations of those Haitians to determine where they should be sent, even though their immigration status may show that it is illegal in those areas. I need y'all to understand that. That, to me, is ridiculous. And these are going to be... These
question.
Because it is ridiculous.
Yeah. They're going to include displaced... They're going to include, migrants who, after the 2010 earthquake, found their way, right, somewhere. They're going to start looking into their files. They're going to start looking, even though they're legal, how long have they been here? Are they migrants who are coming here protected? Did they get their papers correct? Even though, can they stay? And this is where it gets ridiculous. They're literally hiding. They're not even hiding. This is plain sight. They're under the bridge, standing there looking for some protected status. And here Texas is telling them, y'all ain't even worth the trouble. Like, you are not worth the trouble. We're going to spend all the money we can to send y'all behinds back, but we're not going to assist you, even though we know the place that you came from, the place that you're coming from, has just experienced another earthquake and a whole hurricane. A lot of people displaced, looking for something.
Indeed.
Looking for some help.
Let me ask this. When the Texas politician says that, this isn't a fruitful way for them to explore migrating to the country, what's the other way? No, I would love to hear him tell us about the legal route that they could seek migration. The reason why he doesn't provide it is because there isn't a route. I'm so sick and tired of seeing these people come up here and talk about these half immigration narratives where they criticize people for migrating when they one way when they know there's no other route available to them. Which brings me to my second question. America talks so much about how it loves to help other countries and blah, 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 and it wants to help these people, but it never wants to give them the help that they're asking for. Wasn't it just the other day when the prime minister or the president of Haiti was assassinated? They were like, we stand with Haiti. We want to help our Haitian brothers and sisters. Wasn't that the talking point all over the news when they wanted to, vilify Haiti and make it out this way, talking about this? Wasn't that the talking point? Didn't they all want to help Haiti and stand with Haiti? Wasn't the whole country sharing infographics about helping Haiti? And now all of a sudden, here are the Haitians needing help, telling you exactly how they need help, and you don't got no help to give them? You mean to tell me in 50 states of a country that's half empty? Let's be honest, I've driven around America, okay? Half of the place is just empty cornfields, highways, nothing but empty land, places to go. You mean to tell me there's nothing you could do? You can't help these people? Or do you not want to help these people?
Come on. So exactly what you're saying is what is actually what is said on a clip. And I know that we were going to play that first clip, Dwayne, but if we can go to that second one, I want you to hear this conversation. And you being an immigrant too, Olay, you can understand this whole conversation. Just exactly what you said is what a lot of immigrants are saying. Like, you guys were just on camera campaigning, saying that we stand with Haiti, which we know, which us Haitians and many immigrants understand what that means. We only stand for it right now while it's in the news, while it's trending. And this is why I say we got to be very careful with that, because even though it's in the news and it's trending right now, the next week, the next month, it won't be. And all those same issues are going to still be there. And the little trickling of money and assistance and things like that is dead. It's done. It's not we can't help anymore. We don't really care for you. And I think one of the biggest things, let me know when you do have that, Dwayne. I think one of the biggest things for me that we should highlight as well is the treatment of Black immigrants in this country. It's like, and I understand that they have DACA, which protects, Hispanic immigrants and other immigrants, things like that. But, the dreamers but why does it have to be when it's Black immigrants so strenuous? We have these laws like in Florida from where I'm from. And it's literally if a Cuban person has one little toe, Okay, one little toe on land, they can stay. A Haitian person, they better pack. They'll push their behinds back in the water to get back.
Right.
You hear me?
Right.
They will not allow them to stay. So yeah, thanks, Dwayne. We're ready now. Now I could go on for days about that because I got stories. Okay, I got people who came here by water. I got people who came here by flight. It doesn't matter. The struggle is real. When you get here as a Black immigrant, it's disrespectful. But you can go ahead and roll that beautiful beam footage, Dwayne.
Gerlin, of course, I am going to start with you. Is that what a fair, humane, and orderly immigration system looks like, Gerlin?
That is the opposite of what a fair, humane, and welcoming system looks like, Alicia, because we understand when you welcome people into your home, what that looks like. We are seeing how taking the time to understand the vulnerability of people, where they are coming from, and be able to welcome them with dignity. What we are seeing is the opposite of what we need to see. And I have heard so many different narratives, and I saw Ted Cruz, talk about the invasion of Haitians into the United States, and what we are seeing as a response to that, them deporting those people. What we are looking at is a failed system.
Gerlin, can you help us understand how thousands of Haitians have ended up in Texas, both literally the route they have taken and the push that has driven them there?
Absolutely. We see that those people are extremely vulnerable. They are survivors of the earthquake, survivors of extreme political turmoil in Haiti. For those who do not know, they assassinated the president of Haiti inside his home, pushing people out of the country. Yes, a lot of the people that we are seeing under the bridge in Del Rio right now have left the country after the earthquake in 2010 that killed over 250,000 people. But understand, what continues to drive people out of the country is both natural disasters and man-made disasters. And we have said that many times, internal violence and external violence. And what we are seeing at the U.S.-Mexico border right now, the treatments of Black bodies, the treatment of Haitian immigrants, that's external violence.
Gerlin, I asked Mayorkas about the conditions that Haitian...
Let's pause it right there really quickly. So she said a lot of things. Okay, so that's Gerlin Joseph, and she's the founder and executive of the Haitian Bridge Alliance. And this is out of Texas. And here is my thing. She said the violence of Black bodies, of Black immigrants occur at the hands of the U.S., right? There's so much that goes on when immigrants come here, but there's going to be a reason that they're coming here. If their country did not have issues, I don't think they would be wanting to flock here. My brother is an immigrant, only been here about 5 years. I think he's here maybe 3 months out of the year. He hates it here. He goes back to Haiti as often as possible. He absolutely hates it here. He's like, what kind of life is this? People really got to work and slave and all this stuff. It is not what I dreamed about when I was younger. And I understand that. But these people literally just experienced the assassination of their president. Okay, these people being my people, Haitians, they just experienced the assassination of their president. Government is literally messed up. The people have been on the streets protesting for years of mistreatment, of people being poor, where the money is going, why the money isn't being put into the right places. They've been stressed. They've been struggling for years. Then this assassination comes. There is no order in the government. We see right now there's an ongoing investigation with the people closest to the president being investigated. It's a whole mess. It's a whole soap opera. The U.S. wanted to interfere within that, right? They were going to assist with that investigation. You got the earthquake that hit in the south part of Haiti. So many people to this day displaced. My brother was just there last week, okay, showing us a video of what it looked like. People have nothing. From the 2010 earthquake, we're in 2021. From the 2010 earthquake, there are people still trying to flee to find a better life for them, their kids, okay? This is still something that is happening. And so when they get here, what we see often, and we've talked about this on the show, when it comes to African immigrants, when it comes to Black immigrants specifically from the Caribbean, and specifically Haitians, they get here and they get treated the worst. If you talk to a Black immigrant, you will hear their struggle story. If you talk to a Hispanic immigrant, and I'm not talking about like the Mexicans, I'm talking about like Puerto Ricans or Puerto Ricans are considered immigrants. But you talk about any other Hispanic immigrant, they come here and they have this better treatment. Cubans will tell you their experience compared to a Black immigrant. Listen to it. The struggle is real. It's harder to pass the naturalization test for a certain accent or because you didn't get one question correct. Now they're finding other routes, right? Other routes to get here. If this was such an issue, why did you allow thousands of them to really pile up so that you can make this such a national crisis in Texas so that they can look like thugs, so that they can look like they're about to take over? Is that what it's like? They're going to put people's lives in danger over there? They're coming here for safety. So the narrative that's being placed is a lie. It's a lie.
America loves trauma porn. America loves, as someone who came to America because largely, I wanted to move away. But, my family kind of preferred the idea of America because America is sold to you as a melting pot. Like, I remember my mommy repeating that repeatedly. It's a melting pot. Go there, go there. And in my time in America, I'm just like, wow, look at the fraud. Like, America really behaves a lot like a college that goes to Black neighborhoods and solicits looking for Black students to apply so they can put you in your diversity brochure, but still requires you to write an essay about trauma porn. You know what I mean? For admission. That's what it is. Like, that's really what it is. They're like, oh, it's a melting pot. America's the nation of all immigrants, blah, blah, blah. Come. But it needs you. America requires you. Like, please give me all your pain. Give me all your trauma. Make it look as terrible as it can or whatever. And then maybe after I've bled you dry of all of your deep personal strife and struggle, maybe I'll let you stay. And then you'll make us look good. Like, that's really what it is. They made it look like that. And they like it because they like these kind of narratives. They like this kind of trauma porn. They like to make it look like a whole people besides them is so struggling and that they are the only people that have the ability to help, and then will turn around, refuse to help, fuel the conditions that require the people to need the help, and then get up and play crazy in the news like, what? We would love to help. We stand with the people.
Yeah. And they don't stand. Look at these people standing outside. They're not standing with them. If we look at how, what I'm afraid of, you guys, is when the secretary Mayorkas said, we're not going to put in the time, the effort, or the money, right? And this is not going to be good for you. I hear ICE is about to rip y'all a few new ones. We're going to put you in these little concentration camps, right? These little ICE concentration camps for a little bit. And when you guys do land, we're just going to drop you off everywhere and anywhere, whether or not you're from that particular part of Haiti. Who cares? You're back in your country. Figure out your route back to where you came from. And then there, we're going to probably, and it's like the treatment. They put them on buses. If you've ever seen people who have been deported back to Haiti, they put them on buses and they just send them anywhere. People don't know where they are. They're asking questions. They're being treated like whatever. And literally they don't care. As soon as America drops their behinds off, that's it. That's all. What I did see on social media, or in Haitian media, I should say, is people getting interviewed in countries like Chile and things like that. And one of them reminded me of my aunt. A woman was interviewed and they were asking her, like, what are you going to do? Like, they're coming here. They possibly may come and get you. And she's like, and they're like, why did you leave? She said, I left in 2010 after the 2020 earthquake. My daughter is somewhere else. We had to separate because we couldn't go to the same areas. I ended up in Chile because I no longer have a home. I no longer have land. I had nothing there. I had to figure out something. And now to know that they may be coming to take me away from the place that I've been living in while Haiti is in more turmoil. My thing is, I'm not saying that I love Haiti. I wish people didn't have to leave to find a better life, to live. But with so much that has been, and it's not only the natural disasters, I want to point out, it's the infiltration of U.S. government, other government into our rice making business, stealing money that wasn't allocated where it was supposed to be after the 2010 earthquake. And all of that the government, the Haitian government partnering with the U.S. government and allowing them to have a lot of the upper hand on what happens in Haiti just because of money. And this is what we have to understand and see. It's not only something that the environment caused, it's people that have caused it and other countries' officials that have caused it, putting their hands on so much things that Haiti used to utilize to gain money, like their rice farming. After taking the rice from Haiti, the Clintons, after taking their rice farming from Haiti and putting in something else, that was a way that they were supposed to get money. We had good rice. Okay? We had Haitian rice. We had things that were making us money, our farms. But now they're taking people's land for literally pennies to $1, forcing them to work on that land.
Yeah.
To farm
They create the
products
conditions
for America. Yeah, it's
the conditions.
Sick. Yes, it's sick. It's very sick. And so all of that is happening, and they're tired because they hear of a life that they can live without the pain, without the struggle. A lot of them talk about their country like my brother talks about Haiti and says it's so beautiful. Haiti has just resources naturally that are beautiful. But what happens is they'll make sure that Haiti lives up to the narrative that they're putting out there. That
Haiti
they're poor
has always been punished for resistance. That's just what it is. Haiti is exploited and they're punished for resistance. They are the first Black free country. That's just what it is. We could boil it way back. They were the first to resist, and that's really the problem. And they've been punishing them ever since and creating the conditions that lead to them needing help and then refusing them to help after the fact. That's what it is.
Yeah. They're telling me I'm talking too much. Y'all know how I get when I talk about Haiti. Y'all know how I get when I talk about Haiti. I know how I get when I talk about
what goes on in Slack stays in Slack, Rebecca Ace.
But y'all know how I get. So I know that we have to watch the time because we have to go to the after party. We have to go to the after show.
Olay.
But this is a conversation that can continue forever. But before we get out of here, I know that we have to watch the time. Dwayne, if you did scroll, I want you guys to hear it out of Mayorkas' mouth himself. We don't have to talk much about it because I think what he says is going to be literally what you need to know and what you need to hear about his plans for the Texas Haitians and the other migrants that are under there. Because let's be clear, it's not only Haitians under there, but the majority Haitians under there from majority migrants. But let's see if you're already there, Dwayne. I hope I didn't put you on the spot, but if you can just play a few of his words.
A new government took power and the situation's more stable. We're very mindful, of course, of the tragedy of the earthquake that occurred. That earthquake occurred in a particular area of the country. It was distinct from the tragic January 10th, 2010 earthquake that the country experienced. So we're very mindful of the situation, but frankly feel that individuals can be returned to that country at this time.
So, Gurleen, I was trying to ask the secretary there about the distinction that is being made between granting temporary protected status for Haitians in the interior of the country and why that same consideration is not being given to migrants who are showing up at the U.S.-Mexico border, often for the same reason. Your response to what you just heard there from Secretary Mayorkas?
With all due respect to Secretary Mayorkas, everything he just mentioned is absolutely untrue. Because understand, as the first deportation flight was going into Haiti on the 15th, the so-called government that he mentioned, the prime minister was in court answering to allegation of being part of the assassination of the president. What we are seeing on the ground right now, people are still trying to find the bodies of their loved ones to be able to cope with the aftermath of the earthquake. And at the same time, we are sending people to the same chaos that they have fled. No, Haiti is not better now than it was prior to the assassination, prior to the earthquake. Sending people to Haiti right now is human rights abuse.
And that's all. Because I get on with it, but it's human rights abuse.
Rebecca, there's so much there that we're going to have to take it to the after party. I just want to, Olay, I want you to tell everyone. We covered a lot of miles. Let's start there. We went from Rikers to immigration, and at the apex of it is not only your work, but what you're doing, advocating on behalf of the prisoners in Rikers Island. Before we run out of time here and head over to the after party, how can people support what you're doing at Rikers Island and all the other, and not specifically Rikers Island, but what you're doing in your fight for the people?
You can follow me on Twitter, Miss Olurin, MSOLURIN. I'll be making noise over there on a daily, and you can always keep up.
She really does. You got to follow her on Twitter. You have to follow her on Twitter.
And do us a favor when y'all follow her. Please don't come in her comments in her mentions with some old foolishness, some concern trolling. Because what I experienced in your
get you together.
Weekend, I just don't want to be on the receiving end of your get right. That's all.
Listen,
right.
Listen, man. You know. I keep trying to tell him I'm not the one. God is still working on me. Leave me alone.
Every day, it's a work in progress. Yes. It's a train that's moving forward. That's what matters, right? But Thank you so much, Olay, for coming on to the show today. Absolutely I love your spirit. I love your smile. I love your drive. I love what you do. And yes, if you're not following her, follow her right now on Twitter, because you will be entertained.
Thank you.
I love you guys.
Thank y'all for having me. Love y'all too.
Thank you so much, Olay.
No problem.
Bye.
Appreciate you, sis.
Take it over, Bubba. You know what it is. We're gonna take it over to the after party. That's where the party at.
Now that we free.
Right. Y'all, shout out to everybody. Shout out again to Olay, and thank you so much for joining. And real quick, want to give a shout out to Alexis over on Twitter. Happy birthday, Alexis. That's the daughter of Danielle Dabiqua. Happy birthday to you. Hope your birthday is wonderful and great, and hope you have an outstanding, excellent day. It may be rough right now, but guarantee you it's going to get better. Always believe that and make sure it will, okay? Love you, mean it. Happy birthday again, Alexis. Y'all make sure that y'all jump on over to the after party, y'all. If you are not already a member of the Patreon, patreon.com/likeItOrNot, patreon.com/likeItOrNot, or the BPD show. That way you can get access to the after party, y'all. Y'all make sure y'all stay tuned, and if not, head over to Pascal show, started 12 minutes ago. Head over and check out the show, man. And if anything, we will see y'all tomorrow at the party. We on the way.
Doesn't treat them right. Put your finger right in his face and tell that man bye-bye. I'm too fly. I'm too fly. Bye-bye. 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 You're a little bit selfish. You get mad every time you lose. You can't take me with you. I'm scared you're gonna blow your fuse. Come a little bit closer. Yeah, I can really start over. Yeah, in the back of my mind, there's someone waiting on me. You're just wasting my time because you're scared and lonely. Finally got some closure. Yeah, I can finally start over. Yeah, so all my ladies who got a brother that doesn't treat them right, put your finger right in his face and tell that man bye-bye. I'm too fly. I'm too fly. Bye-bye. 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 Here's to the memories. Cheers to who used to be. Your friend said that you left me. I'm glad that's what you believe. All my ladies who got a brother that doesn't treat them right, put your finger right in his face and tell that man bye-bye. I'm too fly.